Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big D Live. I was going to say welcome back. Welcome to the Big D Live. My name is Jay Cantu. Join next to me, Evan Sully. We're both Texas natives who've kind of branched out to the Midwest or the Eastern region of the United States. But the Big D Live, a show where we talk about anything and everything Dallas sports, all the teams, you name it, in the DFW region. Evan Sully, how are you doing on this Saturday afternoon?
I am doing great. Got a nice fresh wave check, or that's what I call my haircut this morning, and so I'm feeling great. How about you?
We're both 20. I'm doing great too. We mentioned before we both had Chick-fil-A today. I didn't get a wave check.
Yep.
I got a fade check on Thursday.
Hey, that works too.
So
I wish I could do that.
So we're both twinning right here now. We're on the same wavelength, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so it's been just to kind of give a little background. We met 4 years ago at a radio meeting at DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois. And from then, the rest was history. We started a radio station together in the winter quarter of 2018. And we've been covering a lot of the Dallas sports, like I said at the beginning. So it's been a wild ride. We've done many shows with Radio DePaul Sports, and there's a lot of archive stuff that I can link in the description as well of, you know, the ups and downs of the Dallas seasons and our teams and previous coaches that we've been through for all of our teams. But it's 2021, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot has changed, hasn't it?
Yes, a lot has changed.
And, you know, diving into, you know, we can talk about the Rangers. Nah, that season's over. We can talk about the Stars. Come on. They're the basement team of Dallas. We still support them, but it's all about the Cowboys. And that's what we're here to talk about is the Cowboys because, Evan, are the Cowboys good this year?
This is not a hot take, but I think they actually are as good as advertised this year. I know they had a very tough home opener, or it wasn't really a home opener. It was an opener on the road against the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
That was a tough loss. And they could argue they should have won them. And they could 3-0. I think they are as good as advertised. I think the defense could still use some work. The secondary is still a bit iffy, but they've had people step up like Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons, for example. So defensively, they're looking great. And offensively, having Dak Prescott back is huge. You know, he's such an inspiring guy when you look through and read through his story and all that he's been through over the last year and a half during COVID. It's really been remarkable to see how well he has led the Cowboys offense after all that he's gone through this season.
Yeah, I mean, you hit across all the points right there. I just think too, you mentioned that first game, Zerline, if he makes a field goal, totally different game down the line. Who knows what happens, but you know, we're not going to go full Cowboy homer yet. Who knows what happens there?
He made up for it.
He did. He won the Chargers game. Very close. A lot of penalties on that week too. Just to kind of give like a quick recap. And we assume everyone watched that Thursday night opener, you know, unless you just absolutely dread the Cowboys and Tom Brady. But and then again, that Chargers game, like we said, was a close one. But it was that Eagles game. That Eagles whooping on Monday had to feel good, didn't it, Evan?
Yes, it did. I was waiting for that first regular season game where we really saw the offensive team and the units just flow, and they finally did.
It's every note was sung perfectly that night. Every aspect of the team was firing from all cylinders, as cliche as that is. But really, I mean, you got your turnovers. A little shaky at the very beginning, but the Cowboys still came out, had a opening drive touchdown, and then it didn't look like they had many plays for negative yardage throughout the whole game at all.
Yes, it did. That was tough to watch, and that had me asking questions internally. Is this offense as stagnant as it has been the past few years, really since 2016?
Exactly.
I could say.
Yeah, and then that's even to say too, no Gallup. There was no Gallup on the field, even for the past two games. And I'm hoping that he'll come across and start rehabbing a little bit of that injury that he suffered in week one. in the coming week. But yeah, we're sitting pretty at top of the NFC East right now. We're in the driver's seat with the top down on the convertible, right? And we're riding we're riding high right now, as we've done many times after a win. But this one, like you said, this one feels a little bit more special. But again, 2-1 leading into week 4, and we'll kind of jump into a little bit of our preview here now. Against the Carolina Panthers at home, AT&T Stadium, 12 p.m. kickoff. Do the Panthers seem as real as their record?
I do not want to be a fanboy here, but I am going to say no, that they're not as good. If you take a look at who they've played, they started out against the Jets, and when you're going against a rookie quarterback, especially with Zach Wilson, head of all of them, you're probably going to win that game, or at least I would hope you would win that game. So I don't know if they've really played anyone good besides really nobody. I think who else did they beat? They beat the Saints, and then they beat the Texans. And when they beat the Saints in week 2, Jameis Winston probably had his worst game of the season so far. And I think that was a big factor as to why the Panthers defense, quote unquote, played as good as it did that game. So yes, I do think they are a bit overrated, but Sam Darnold, though, he has had himself a season. And so I want to give him credit where it's due, especially starting off in a new environment in Carolina. But yes, to answer your first question, I do think they're a bit overrated, not as good as their record shows.
I've been really, I don't know if it's just the heavy fandom in me. I've been really watching, and crossing behind enemy lines this past week. Just kind of stalking on, the Panthers fans' Twitters, and there's podcasts all over Spotify and YouTube, and a lot of them are furious. A lot of Panthers fans are furious for the exact same reasons that you have listed, and I completely agree with. Right? They're obviously they're gonna pick their team. We're not here to say and refute anything about that, but I agree with you completely. I mean, a lot of them are upset that the national media and Cowboy fans are discrediting that Saints win with the dual fact that because the Saints are good, Jameis Winston that first week completely blew the doors off and scared Aaron Rodgers and his mullet, and now they're like, oh, how come we're not talking about that? And you're only bringing up the Jets and the Texans. Well, like for the same reason you said, Saints were missing pieces. Jameis Winston was going to Jameis Winston, and it was just a matter of time. And the Saints always have a game like that at the beginning of the year where it's just a fluke. But, I think the biggest turn for me right now is J.C. Horn and Christian McCaffrey getting injured in the Houston Texans game almost 10 days ago on Thursday Night Football.
Huge losses, because we saw McCaffrey in the first 2 weeks gain both 98 yards and 72 yards. I mean, that's a showing, especially for a guy who the Panthers rely on so heavily.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if it was in Carolina, was it Bank of America Stadium, and Christian McCaffrey was there, I think this would be a different story. I mean, there's a reason why I think the line's 4.5 right now. The Cowboys winning. A lot of Panthers are furious because the Panthers are still, are still a fairly new team to the league, right?
Yeah.
You had that great run in 2015. We're not going to discredit that at all. That was a fun Panthers team to watch, even though they kind of laid an egg in the Super Bowl. But Manning wasn't going to lose his last Super Bowl on the 50th season overall for the NFL. But I think the Cowboys have to be feeling good heading into this game. And let's kind of segue into this a little bit where we compare and contrast. And let's dive in a little bit here. Comparing the Cowboys, let's do first the Cowboys offense and the Panthers offense. Evan, who would you give the edge to? And you can break it down position by position if you want, or at least quarterback versus running back, wide receiver core.
Well, in the QB category, I am going to go with Dak Prescott. And that's not me being a homer. It's me being a homer on his accuracy this season. I know in his rookie season, a lot of people in national sports media touted him for his accuracy for only throwing 4 interceptions that year. And it looks like I think he's on pace to have a season like that where he only throws a handful of interceptions because his accuracy has just been so good. He might not have the most passing yards compared to the other quarterbacks so far through the first 3 games, but he still has about 880 yards so far, which I would say is decent for a team that's won 2 games out of 3. So in that category, I would give the edge to Dak Prescott. Not that Sam Darnold isn't inaccurate, but when you look at the defenses he's gone up against, the Texans, the Jets, and the Saints in their one fluke game, I just don't know if I can give Sam Darnold the edge here. I think he needs to play a top level defense, and maybe the Cowboys defense isn't even top tier, top level, but significantly better than the 3 teams they've played before.
I completely agree there. I would definitely give a no-brainer the edge to Dak Prescott there in the quarterback position for the Cowboys. Just comparing stats real quick. Sam Darnold has a QBR right now of 67.2, 68.2 completion percentage. The 3 touchdowns and 88 passing yards, that's good. And then he's shown that he's been able to break a little bit loose out of the pocket and show his running skills and show his legs. But, that's why we'll get into a little bit. You have Micah Parsons there to kind of maybe QB spy a little bit on Sunday. Let's move on, though, to that wide receiver core. I feel like this is also a no-brainer, too.
Yes, I would have to agree with you. You can never go wrong with Amari Cooper as your number 1 option. And, of course, CeeDee Lamb there is in your second spot. And the only real negative thing I'd have to say right now is that Gallup is out, and that is a known fact. And I typically would put the Cowboys at a disadvantage in the situation in the wide receiver category. But when you look at who the Panthers have, not that Rob Anderson and Terrence Marshall Jr., if that's correct, are bad players. They're just not on the same level of athleticism and catching ability as the Cowboys receivers are.
No, I completely agree. And, they have that Robbie Anderson tandem. Obviously, Sam Darnold has some history with him there. But moving on also, CeeDee Lamb. Oh, and I believe it's DJ Moore, excuse me, too. Terrence Marshall as well. But you just can't overlook this wide receivers. And then we even throw the tight ends there. I mean, Dalton Schultz has just looked spectacular. He's improved a lot in the blocking aspect of things in the offense, but you can really rely on him to secure the ball, don't fumble, and get some yards after the catch.
Yes, you can rely on him also to create space, which also leads to those yards after the catch. And when I was talking about the ability of the Cowboys receivers to catch the ball, it's not just using their outstretched arms to go up and leap for it, but it's also the ability to create space and create different moves that lead you to gain more yards. And so that's definitely important. I think it's underlooked in receiving cores nowadays.
Exactly. And then I don't feel like we really need to cover the running back situation. Christian McCaffrey's out, as we stated. Nothing against Chuba Hubbard, but we just haven't seen too much of him after a very down season in 2020.
Small sample size.
Exactly. You have to give, obviously, the Cowboys the full effect. Now, we're going to flip things on to the defense real quick before we give our score predictions here. I feel like we're still getting used to this new Cowboys defense underneath Dan Quinn. I know we talked about the Panthers opponents at the very beginning, but numbers don't lie. They are number 1 in defense right now against the run, least amount of yardage given up by team and points. I think I'm right about that. And more of the story is this defense is not good. It's great.
Yeah.
Even without the cornerbacks. JC Horn that I talked about there.
Yep, there's no doubt that the Panthers have the best defense in the NFL. And I think it's time for that best defense to be challenged by an offensive firepower that is the Dallas Cowboys.
No, I totally agree there. It's definitely going to be a clash tomorrow at 12 p.m. But yeah, we'll definitely give the advantage defensively. But let's not, again, people will discredit this if we're going to play the discredit game with the Panthers
Yeah.
fans. Let's not discredit the Cowboys' efficiency to turn over the ball. And that's all credit to Dan Quinn. I don't care if it's a blimp off the hands of Leonard Fournette, an easy interception there. But they've made key turnovers at key critical points of the game, and they have the most in the NFL right now, something we have never said in a long time with us speaking together, doing a show. That's something not to be discredited with.
No, not at all. I'm really glad that you mentioned turnovers because a turnover is a turnover no matter how you look at it, whether it's a fumble, an interception, a deflected pass that leads to an interception. Turnovers are huge, and we've definitely been seeing more active hands from the Cowboys defensively this season, at least more than I've seen in the last 3-4 seasons. And so that's definitely played a factor in their ability to create turnovers.
And I believe I was rewatching a little bit of just the game highlights of that Texans and Panthers game. Sam Darnold, I think, fumbled the ball twice. Was lucky enough to recover it at Cam Irving, ex-offensive lineman for the Cowboys. Plays for the Panthers now, was obviously there on one of them. But, let's not kind of think that Sam Darnold took a huge step, in pocket presence. Some stuff that he still needs to build upon, but definitely seeing the field and down the field vision a lot better than he was in a New York Jets uniform. As far as tomorrow, again, 12 p.m., Cowboys Panthers in Jerry World. Evan, I think it's time for us to give our score predictions here. We don't do any bets here. No, don't make fun of our whatever our predictions. Well, it's coming out of our mouth is what we're thinking right now, and we may be right. Let's go ahead, Evan. I want you to kick it off, man. What do you got? Score prediction. Who wins?
My score prediction for tomorrow's game, Cowboys Panthers, I am going 31-14 edge Dallas Cowboys.
All right, I'm not too far away from you. I'm going to go I was going to say 34-21 Cowboys. I think we're kind of around the same similar pace. I just don't think Panthers haven't scored above 30 points yet. Yeah, this is a interesting Cowboys defense that's starting to find their legs, but I think just the offense is too much to handle. Even with that great defense, I think, like you said earlier, they're in for a rude awakening.
They are, and it's coming.
It's coming. All right, less than 24 hours till kickoff there. But on that subject of kicking off, the Mavericks training camp kicked off, and Evan, just to let the listeners and viewers know, I think you are by far the number one Mavericks fan I've ever met, and I'm a pretty big Mavericks fan too.
Really?
Yeah.
I have all the MFFLs.
All the well, that I know, of course.
Oh, that you know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take it as a compliment, and it's something I'm very proud of. I'm definitely a Mavs nerd, and I love all of our players, regardless of what they say on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Twitter is after a Mavs loss is a nightmare, especially after a Clippers playoff series loss.
Right.
But yeah, Mavs had kicked off their training camp. Luka, Porzingis, the whole new gang is there with Jason Kidd leading the Chargers this year. I don't think we texted a little bit over it, but just for a quick minute or so, what did you originally think of that Jason Kidd hire right off the bat, especially when some assistant coaches of the Mavericks were kind of thrown in the middle of it and kind of got pushed aside?
Well, the Jason Kidd hire was interesting, first and foremost, because I didn't think he was going to get the job, or that, not that he didn't deserve it, but I thought that the head coaching vacancy should have gone to Jamal Mosley. I thought he was right in line, and he had experience under Rick Carlisle coaching this current squad that's been pretty similar, or they've had a pretty similar roster for the past 3 years, and Mosley has been there for a few of those. And so he understood the Mavs offense and the way they like to play defensively. And so I thought it was going to go to Mosley, but the kid hiring, it's nothing unheard of to bring a former championship caliber player to coach your team. And I want to give Jason Kidd credit where it's due and wish him the best of luck, because I know he has not had a super successful track record as a head coach, but lately he seems to have made up for it as an assistant on the Lakers. So he brings that championship caliber pedigree, not just as a former player, but as an assistant coach, coaching elite level players like LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So I think it will be a pretty unique season, and it's a pretty unique hire, I'll say.
Yeah, I think as much as the whole, the surprise in the front of Rick Carlisle leaving and Jason Kidd getting hired out of the blue, they had all this kind of set up.
Probably.
Yeah, and Rick Carlisle was there to definitely spill the beans, saying in his like first presser in a Pacers polo, how thinking that Jason Kidd would be a great fit for Luka. And from pictures and what we've seen so far on the little mini training camp that they're having before the preseason starts, they look good. They look like they have good chemistry. Like you said, I'm with you in the same boat of giving, Jason Kidd a little bit of credit of, his first couple coaching stints didn't probably go as well as he wanted it to go, but they have to start somewhere. And I think at the end of the day, he's coming to a team obviously that has MVP talent, Luka Doncic. I think Porzingis, he still has the shell of him of what he was before New York there, and I'm hoping that kid, they're moving in the right directions to bring out anything and everything that we can out of Porzingis, especially after a fresh, healthy off season for the first time. And I do, although they were subtle, and we'll kind of transition to this too. I did like some of the free agents they did land, in quotations again, because I know we're also homers on, Kawhi's still out there. Oh, we got a big. Oh, maybe Miles Turner will get traded. Like whatever, just throw out Miles Turner name. Don't want him. But you know what I'm saying. I think we're really big homers on that idea. But I really like the Bullock signing.
Yeah, so do I. I think Bullock, for one, he's a better 3-point shooter than what people give him credit for. And the Mavs definitely need shooters from what we saw, not just in game 7 of that Clippers series, but throughout the entire postseason. That was very short for the Dallas Mavericks. But Bullock is just that dog that the Mavericks need. And not that they didn't have that before, but they need a guy who's not just going to play well on both sides of the ball, but you need someone who's going to be an energizer on the bench in the locker room, someone who's going to get other folks involved, not just on the floor, but also mentally. And I think that's huge, because we can't just be having Luka Doncic running the helm of everything for that team. So hopefully this Bullock signing will be a pretty good turnout. I think the Mavs have him for 3 years, inked at not sure what the amount of money is, but I know he signed a 3-year deal. And so it'll be a good acquisition for the Mavericks, especially playing alongside Tim Hardaway Jr.
Oh, I completely agree. And then just to also put out there, so I was also trying to find this contract signing that he had. It was a 3-year, $30 million contract with the Mavericks, signed on September 6, 2021. Oh, no. That was when the article was created. Excuse me. Signed way earlier when free agency started. Completely blanked out there. But yeah, I think Bullock addition is really good. And I do like the Moses Brown, although, he came in, I believe, in a trade. I hope I'm not wrong, back to back like that. Moses Brown. Yeah. Now he's been bouncing around a little bit this past year. But the Mavericks and Mark Cuban made that Legends program. Obviously, Tyson Chandler, as you mentioned, is a part of that. Bringing in JJ Barea, Dirk Nowitzki. You have a lot of key pieces from that key championship run in 2011, hoping to recreate magic in a bottle again, or recapture magic in a bottle again with this young Mavericks core that's looking to make a little bit of noise in a very competitive Western Conference. I would think a lot more competitive than it was last year. It just keeps getting better and better.
Yes, it does keep getting better and better out west, but the Mavs are lucky this season, or at least going into this season, with the fact that so many teams in the West are banged up going in. Golden State, for example, they're still banged up with Klay Thompson and the Andrew Wiggins situation of him being an anti-vaxxer. So I'm not sure they'll get off to as good of a start as some would have hoped. Even you can talk about the Denver Nuggets too, with Jamal Murray being out for a good chunk of the season after I believe he tore his ACL last season. And same with the Clippers. Kawhi is going to miss most of the season too. So I think the Mavs have opportunities to climb the rankings of the Western Conference this year. If there's going to be any year they can do it, it has to be this year.
I don't know.
Based on circumstances.
What are projections of top five or fifth seed? Is that what it is right now?
Personally, I think they can reach the 5 or 6 seed.
That's what I'm.
But I'm not sure what the official rankings are.
Yeah, I'm thinking around the 5 seed. Obviously, you're going to have the presence of the Lakers and their whatever legacy team they built this offseason.
Which I hope. Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
No, which I want that Lakers grandpa team to fail. Personally, I do. I think that would be funny to see.
I think
I don't want it to be successful.
Yeah, no, a lot of America is mad that the only 2 teams in the NBA seem to be the Nets and the Lakers. So who knows what's going to happen this season? But we're excited. We're here. We're gonna bring you more Mavs conversation and talk, especially as soon as we start ramping up towards the season and when the season starts. Of course, that first Mavs preseason game is on Wednesday, October 6th, 7:30 p.m. at home against the Utah Jazz. And I believe, they implemented that you have to show your vaccination card or negative test. I believe that is that first game, implemented that first game. So any Mavs fans going out there, be prepared to show one or the other. But I think that's going to do it, Evan Sully. I think we covered all the bases.
Yes, we did. There is one more quick thing I'd like to ask you about, just from a Mavs to Mavs fan point of view. Are you concerned with the roster practically being the same ever since mid-2018, 2019? I mean, does that concern you at all? I know we have a different head coach in PilotKid, but are you concerned that it's going to be the same old Luka creating all the offense and basically doing everything offensively and then dishing it out to role players that you could say are fringe NBA players like Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxey, Dwight Powell? Are you concerned with the lack of the depth on the roster?
Yeah, definitely it is concerning because Mark Cuban just really made it out in the offseason, and I feel like I heard him talk about it, whether it was in articles or interviews he did on radio shows in Dallas. It just kind of feels like they're sweeping it under the rug and hoping that a coaching change and a general manager change will flip this team around. I think Nico Harrison said that they believe that their coaching staff, and don't quote me exact words on this, but it's just kind of the theme and idea of that their coaching staff believes, they want to keep this core from last year because they think it is a very talented team, and not to dismiss the talent that the Mavericks have with Luka Doncic and Porzingis carrying a lot of weight on it. You can add Timmy and Brunson in that conversation, but it's who knows. I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm a little concerned because it really just feels like, they're rolling the dice again, and they're just really hoping to gamble that again. They're trying to recapture the lightning in the bottle, like from 2011, but just kind of reverse, not with veterans, but this young core Mavericks team that they're putting together with a little veterans sprinkled in here and there. Is it concerning? I do believe so, especially when you're seeing other teams in the West either add, big free agents or draft these young key players in the early second, late second round, finding these cool gems, even in the mid first round. And the Mavericks, unfortunately, they didn't have a pick this draft. So, that just kind of shows. I really feel like the Mavericks have really never taken the draft as seriously. And you can say this and that Donnie Nelson got lucky with Dirk and Luka, and we call them a god for finding them. You can argue that, but at the end of the day, a lot of your talent comes from the draft. And I know you went out and you took a risk on Porzingis, but as Mavs fans too, I think we need to flip the script and say and I do this a lot. We can't be so hopeful in the free agency market because we have an MVP caliber star. And yes, he's recruiting. We're not saying he's not, and he's doing his best. But at the end of the day, like, your talent comes from the draft. When you don't have any picks, it makes it really tough to make your team better. Then we get in the rhythm of just having the same team year after year. Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith has developed well, and a couple Maxey for sure. But at the end of the day, yeah, you've had that development because it has been the core, and that's a nice upside. But you're really lucky that happened, because if not, we might be looking at a non-playoff team here.
Absolutely. And this is something that can get pretty heated when talking to other Mavericks fans. And of course, like what you said, you have the core that's been around for a few years with Luka, now Porzingis, Tim Hardaway, Dwight Powell, Maxey, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Jalen Brunson. I'm going to throw him in there too, because he was drafted in 2018 alongside that trade from the Hawks for Luka back in 2018. But I do want to see Jason Kidd play Josh Green a lot more than Rick Carlisle played him. And that was the Mavs' first-round draft pick from last year, as we know. And I thought it was a pretty questionable pick. I thought they should have drafted Saddiq Bey or Tyrese Maxey.
Huge,
but they went with Josh Green. Yeah. And Josh Green, I would say, is probably the Mavs' second best passer. And the glimpse of play that we saw him in last year, he has shown the ability to pass the ball and move around and be energetic and full of energy, which is important. And so I think he is going to have to play more. I know he only shot 16% from deep last season, which is pretty terrible for an NBA player. I don't care if you're a center or if you're a point guard. It's pretty terrible if you're in the NBA. You're only shooting 16% from three. I mean, let's be real. 425 stinks. But I think he's worked on his this season for the highlights I've seen in both training camp and off-season workouts. And I think Josh Green is going to really have to take that next step and be the Mavs' marquee draft player who developed in the system and became a key role player.
Completely agree on that. Josh Green showed some flashes last season, and it's just about getting him going, putting him in the right situations. We've seen with players, right? They just need to have the right settings, or be in the right setting to really hit, and we'll see where it takes off there. And then I also, just to mention before we go to, from that same draft, I believe, right? Tyler Terrell. Tyrell Terrell, yeah. He's now taking another leave of absence. We saw him take leave of absence last season from the Texas Legends. So
okay.
Yeah, I hope everything's okay with the family personal issue, and hoping he'll join the team soon there, because he was definitely lighting up the G League, last season during a very tough year and tough season.
He was.
So that's where we didn't draft Saddiq Bey, kind of hoping he had a little bit of that 3-point shooting as well, and he's definitely proven it on some games. But man, that Saddiq Bey is like TJ Watt to me in the 2017 Cowboys draft.
Oh yeah,
curse you, Taco Charlton. But that's gonna do it here on the Big D Live. Thanks again, Evan, for joining me and taking the time out of your day to record this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We'll definitely be back and see if we can establish this, whether it's we'll find a schedule. I don't want to promise anything yet, because we're both very busy men now working in the workforce. But that's gonna do it here. I'm Jay Cantu, joined by Evan Sully. Thanks again for you guys tuning in, whether you're listening on Spotify with the podcast or watching on YouTube here and seeing our beautiful faces. But we'll see you guys next time. We're hoping for Cowboys win tomorrow and nothing but the best to kick off the Mavericks preseason here in the next couple of days. But that's going to do it, everyone. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Again, I'm Jay Cantu. This has been Evan Sully, and this has been The Big D Live. Have a great rest of your day.